The stars seemed unusually still that day. Admiral Serena Kowalski gazed through the viewport of the third Pax, the diplomatic vessel carrying humanity's hopes for continued peace. The year was 3164, and humanity had spread across dozens of star colonies, enjoying 2 centuries of relative peace, focusing on civilian development, interstellar trade, and secretly researching hidden technologies as insurance against potential threats. Serena's weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as she contemplated their mission. The Zephyrian Empire, known for using military might to subjugate smaller civilizations, had recently encroached on the Freedom Belt, the outer rim of space that humanity considered its border. The Council of Colonies had dispatched her diplomatic team to negotiate a stand-down order and propose trade and research cooperation. "Admiral, we're approaching Zeta 9 Station," announced Captain Lemin, commander of their escort vessel, and an expert in operating civilian ships that could transform into warships if needed. "Thank you, Captain. Dr. Arjun Patel. Are you ready?" Serena turned to the xenobiology specialist, a slender man with intense eyes who had been studying Zephyrian biological weaknesses for years. "As ready as one can be when facing an empire that considers diplomacy a weakness," Patel replied, organizing his notes on a holographic display. The neutral Zephyrian station loomed ahead, an imposing structure of angular metal and cold blue light. As they docked, Serena felt an unusual tension in her chest. This wasn't her first diplomatic mission, but something felt different this time. The Zephyrian guards who met them were tall, their exoskeletons gleaming under the station lights, their 4 eyes constantly scanning the human delegation. The negotiations began cordially enough, with Serena presenting humanity's case for cooperation. But halfway through the proceedings, her secure communicator vibrated against her wrist, excusing herself momentarily. She stepped aside to read the encrypted message from the Zephyrian Military Council. "Prepare to surrender. Humanity has no right to exist beyond the solar system. In 72 hours from now, we will exterminate." Her blood ran cold. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a declaration of genocide. As she rejoined the table, maintaining her diplomatic composure with effort, her mind was already activating contingencies. The Prometheus Plan, a secret military project she had helped develop years ago, would now need to be fully implemented. "I believe we should adjourn for today," she said smoothly. "My team needs to consult with our council." Back aboard the third Pax, she showed the message to Patel and Lemin. "So much for diplomacy," Lemin muttered, his hands already moving to a hidden control panel. "We need to get back to Earth immediately," Serena said. "The countdown has begun." As the third Pax disengaged from Zeta 9, accelerating toward the nearest jump point, Serena typed a single code into her secure terminal. Prometheus active. Throughout human space, that code would be received by sleeper cells, civilian stations, mining operations, and seemingly harmless transport vessels, all part of a massive, hidden military infrastructure ready to awaken. The Zephyrians had no idea what they had just provoked. They wanted war, and in doing so, they had chosen death. The third Pax arrived at Luna Observatory 40 hours later. With barely 32 hours remaining before the Zephyrian deadline, Serena called an emergency meeting of the Colonial Security Council. The observatory's conference room, built deep within Luna's crust, filled quickly with humanity's leaders. "Admiral Kowalski, explain this emergency," demanded Minerva Duval, the political director of the Colonial Council, her elegant attire contrasting with the military uniforms surrounding her. Serena didn't waste time. "The Zephyrian Empire has given us an ultimatum: surrender or face extermination in less than 32 hours. They've made it clear that humanity has no right to exist beyond our home system." Murmurs filled the room. General Fan Xuan, commander of the Colonial Army, leaned forward. "How many ships do they have?" "Intelligence suggests approximately 4,500 warships, including 500 command vessels. Our official naval force numbers, only 250 warships. Then we're doomed, someone whispered. No! Serena's voice cut through the panic. We're not! She activated a holographic display. It's time to reveal the Prometheus plan. The display showed schematics of civilian structures, transport ships, mining stations, orbital habitats, all with hidden military components. For the past 20 years, we've been embedding military technology into our civilian infrastructure. Every colony, every mining station, even passenger ships have concealed quick-reaction armor, multi-purpose missile launchers, and advanced combat sensors. Dr. Victor Yang, the military technology specialist, continued. Our civilian power grids can be converted to weapon energy within 4 hours. Additionally, we've infiltrated the Zephyrian Empire with sleeper agents over the past 5 years. They're ready to be activated. Colonel Rachel Hayes, strategic advisor, added, We've prepared for this possibility since our first contact with the Zephyrians. Their empire conquers through force. We knew eventually they might target us. Minerva Duval's face paled. You've been militarizing our civilian infrastructure without full council approval? This could cause internal panic, even rebellion in some colonies. With respect, Director, Serena replied. This was approved by the Security Committee. Limited knowledge was necessary for the plan to work. And what exactly is this plan? Asked Duval, her voice tight with controlled anger. In the next 12 hours, all civilian vessels, transport, mining, passenger, will activate their rough conversion protocols. They'll load weapon fuel and start weapon systems. Within 24 hours, all colonies, mining stations, and even civilian facilities on space stations must be ready for open embargo, rapid transformation from civilian to defense structures. In the final 48 hours, our sleeper agents in Zephyrian territory will be awakened, beginning to disable their basic systems, power conduits, internal security, communication transmitters. General Fan stood, his face grim. I support this plan. We have no choice but to fight with everything we have. But this will mean civilian casualties, Duval protested. We should attempt further negotiation. Director, Serena said quietly. They've made their intentions clear. They plan to exterminate us. Not conquer. Exterminate. Colonel Hayes displayed intelligence reports. The Zephyrians believe we're weak because we prioritize civilian development. They interpret our peace as inability to fight. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We have 32 hours, Serena said. Every minute counts. Let's vote. The decision wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Operation Prometheus was officially activated across all human territories. As the meeting dispersed, Serena remained, staring at the display of human-controlled space. She had always believed in peace, had worked for it her entire career. Now, she would become a wartime commander, responsible for countless lives. Are you all right? Colonel Hayes approached, her dark eyes concerned. I never wanted this, Serena admitted. We've had 200 years of peace. Peace that allowed us to prepare, Hayes reminded her. Sometimes peace must be defended with force. Serena nodded slowly. Send the activation codes. All of them. Throughout human space, the message spread. Civilian structures began their metamorphosis. On mining vessels, hidden armor plates extended from concealed compartments. Inside colony habitats, defensive shields powered up. On passenger liners, weapon systems came online. Meanwhile, deep within Zephyrian territory, human sleeper agents received their activation codes. Captain Larissa Siren Rojas, posing as an engineer on a Zephyrian mining vessel, quietly accessed a maintenance terminal. With practiced moves, she began installing logic bombs in the oxygen supply system of the Zephyrian anti-ship flagship. What are you doing? Asked a Zephyrian technician, approaching her station. Routine maintenance, she replied smoothly. Oxygen regulators were showing fluctuations. The technician seemed satisfied and moved on. Larissa continued her work, knowing that in 24 hours, those logic bombs would activate, creating chaos aboard the flagship at a critical moment. Across Zephyrian space, similar scenarios played out as dormant human agents began their sabotage work. Within the Zephyrian command structure, tension grew as reports of system failures began to accumulate. "These failures cannot be coincidental," insisted Lieutenant General Zafir Kalin, addressing War Marshal Vextol. "The humans must have infiltrated our systems." Vextol, a towering Zephyrian with battle scars across his exoskeleton, dismissed the concern. "Impossible. Humans are weak, focused on comfort and trade. They lack the strategic vision for such operations. With respect, sir, we should investigate further before proceeding with the attack." "Your caution borders on cowardice, Kalin," Vextol said coldly. "The Supreme War Chief Malk has already approved the extermination order. We move as planned." As the deadline approached, both civilizations prepared for the coming conflict, one openly mobilizing its vast military fleet, the other quietly transforming from a peaceful society into an armed camp. 8 hours before the 72-hour deadline, the first shots were fired near the New Horizon transport station, where civilian ships from 4 colonies had gathered. Zephyrian warships appeared without warning, opening fire on what they believed were defenseless transport vessels. But as their energy weapons struck the first human ship, something unexpected happened. The transport vessel, Sterling Crow, ostensibly a metal mining ship, suddenly transformed. Armor plates slid into place, weapon ports opened, and missile launchers emerged from hidden compartments. The Aurora's Gift, a passenger liner, and Helios Voyager, a cultural exchange vessel, underwent similar transformations, their civilian shells giving way to heavily armed configurations. From concealed bays, laser turrets, satellite-guided missiles, and automated combat drones deployed. The surprised Zephyrian vessels found themselves under attack from what had appeared to be unarmed civilian targets. "What sorcery is this?" demanded the Zephyrian commander, as his sensors showed multiple weapon signatures, where none should exist. The battle was brief, but intense. The Zephyrians lost 27 ships, including a small command fortress. The humans lost 5 vessels, 3 completely destroyed, 2 managing to escape. War Marshal Vextol received the report with stunned disbelief. Never, in his long military career, had he encountered a civilization that concealed its military capabilities so thoroughly. He immediately reported to Supreme War Chief Malk. "The humans have deceived us," he explained. "Their civilian vessels harbor military capabilities. They were prepared for our attack." Malk's 4 eyes narrowed. "This changes nothing. We have overwhelming numbers. Proceed with the extermination as planned." But within the Zephyrian command, doubts had begun to surface. Lieutenant General Kalin secretly contacted a human communication relay, attempting to establish a backchannel to discuss the possibility of standing down the blockade if the Zephyrians agreed to a ceasefire. Unfortunately, his communication was detected. Vextol confronted him in the command center. "Treason," Vextol hissed. "You would negotiate with those who have made us look foolish?" "I would prevent unnecessary casualties," Kalin replied. "If they can disguise their military capabilities this effectively, what else might they be hiding?" "Your cowardice dishonors the Empire," Vextol declared. "You are relieved of command." As Kalin was led away, murmurs spread through the younger officers. If humans could transform civilian ships into warships without detection, perhaps they weren't as weak as Zephyrian doctrine suggested. With 2 hours remaining before the deadline, the Zephyrian main fleet approached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. 320 medium-class warships, 80 smaller escort vessels, and 12 command ships moved in formation, intending to cut off the retreat path of the human fleet. What they didn't know was that hundreds of asteroids in the belt had been equipped with engines and weapon compartments years earlier, Phase 2 of the human ambush plan. As the Zephyrian fleet entered the belt, the trap was sprung. Thousands of asteroids simultaneously activated their engines, hurling themselves like weaponized comets toward the Zephyrian ships. The Zephyrians attempted to defend themselves, but their defense systems couldn't disperse such a dense wave of attacks. From hidden bases within larger asteroids, human-controlled drones emerged, targeting the Zephyrian ships' vulnerable points. The space between Mars and Jupiter lit up with explosions as ship after ship succumbed to the unexpected assault. When it was over, approximately 240 Zephyrian vessels had been destroyed. Another 60 retreated, badly damaged. The human forces, mostly consisting of 7 fully armored civilian ships, suffered only minor damage before withdrawing. War Marshal Vextal watched the tactical display with growing horror as his mighty fleet disintegrated. The humans had turned the very celestial bodies against them, using the asteroid belt as a weapon. Despite this devastating defeat, Vextal remained determined to press forward with the extermination plan. The crushing defeat in what would later be called the Hell's Belt created a crisis within the Zephyrian Empire. Supreme War Chief Malk called an emergency council as reports of the catastrophic losses poured in. "How could this happen?" he demanded of his assembled generals. "How could humans, mere traders and miners, defeat our mighty fleet?" "They've been deceiving us," General Vrax suggested, "hiding their military capabilities behind civilian facades." "Or perhaps," Admiral Thexar ventured cautiously, "we have underestimated them." The room fell silent at this heresy. Zephyrian doctrine held that their empire was the supreme military power in the galaxy. To suggest otherwise was to question centuries of conquest and tradition. "Whatever the case," Malk declared, "we still outnumber them. We will proceed with the attack on their homeworld." But doubt had taken root. The younger officers whispered among themselves, questioning whether the Zephyrians were truly the galactic masters they claimed to be. Meanwhile, humanity launched Phase 3 of its defensive plan. Special teams infiltrated key Zephyrian installations throughout the sector. Lieutenant Nguyen Hui, disguised as a Zephyrian engineer, and Lieutenant Elena Morales, an electronic warfare specialist, secretly boarded the military mothership Zeth. Working in shadows and maintenance tunnels, they planted viruses designed to destroy the network command center. "Timer set," Morales whispered. 20 minutes until system corruption begins." "Let's move to the secondary target," Hui replied, checking his disguise once more. Simultaneously, the Zephyrian relay stations at Junction 12 and Junction 16 were being neutralized by code sequences developed by Major General Truong Nhat, who had studied Zephyrian protocols extensively. These stations controlled communication and navigation for the entire Zephyrian fleet in the sector. As their communication and navigation systems failed, panic spread through the Zephyrian command structure. Vexthul, seeing his carefully planned offensive collapsing, made a desperate decision. He would lead the remaining 150 warships with sufficient fuel and ammunition on a direct assault against Earth, hoping to destroy the naval base on Luna. "Even if we fall," he told his officers, "we will make the humans pay for their deception." What Vexthul didn't know was that Luna's defense fleet had fully mobilized 200 mixed vessels, mostly converted civilian ships, 500 combat UAVs, and 3,000 mining drones reconfigured for combat. As the Zephyrian fleet approached Luna, they were met with a barrage of plasma ray bombs that didn't destroy their ships, but disabled their electronic systems, rendered nearly powerless. The Zephyrian vessels were then engaged in close combat by the more maneuverable human ships. The result was devastating. Almost the entire remaining Zephyrian fleet was destroyed. Only about 12 ships managed to retreat into the Bronze Rift, a dark region bordering 3 galaxies, to regroup. Vexthul himself was captured along with 8 top generals. The mighty Zephyrian offensive had been completely shattered. The surviving Zephyrians, brought to Luna or space prison camps, fell into a state of learned helplessness. Many experienced deep depression and panic when remembering their encounter with humans. They discovered they couldn't resist the mental trauma. Throughout human space, interstellar trade routes were re-established. Relief efforts began to evacuate settlers from distant systems that had been threatened. Many colonies started building monuments to commemorate the day when the humans said, "You want war? Then you've chosen death," to be observed annually, remembering the sacrifices and warning potential future adversaries. 3 months after the failed Zephyrian offensive, Admiral Serena Kowalski led a civilian leadership delegation to meet with War Marshal Vextel and the remaining Zephyrian Council, including Lieutenant General Kalin and other moderates who had been rehabilitated. "You deceived us," Vextel accused as the meeting began. "We protected ourselves," Serena corrected. "For 200 years, we focused on peaceful development, but we weren't naive. Your civilian vessels, they were warships in disguise." "Not exactly," Serena explained. "They were civilian vessels with the capacity to defend themselves if needed. We hoped that capacity would never be required." The peace negotiations were tense but productive. The Zephyrians agreed to surrender their mass driver weapon development technology, capable of early planetary destruction, and to open trade routes, accepting medical aid offered by humanity. In return, humanity committed to helping rebuild the Zephyrian worlds using a military-civilian reconciliation model, integrating Zephyrian engineers with Earth construction experts. The wider galactic community watched these developments with interest. The alliance of minor civilizations, once fearful of both humans and Zephyrians, now aligned themselves with humanity. Many civilizations previously conquered by the Zephyrians requested their freedom. Serena broadcast a message across interplanetary frequencies. "Humanity does not seek hatred. We simply ensure that those who wish to destroy us will meet only death. Those who come in peace, we welcome. Those who come bearing weapons, we remind them of our now famous words. You want war? Then you've chosen death." In the months that followed, the third Pax glided through Zephyrian imperial space, escorted by the now unarmored converted ships that had returned to their civilian roles. They carried food, supplies, and reconstruction teams to the Zephyrian planets. Standing on the bridge, Serena watched the stars pass by, her thoughts reflective. "The war is over," she thought. "But the path to peace has only begun. We must learn to be protectors, not just destroyers." As human and Zephyrian engineers worked side by side, rebuilding what had been broken, a new understanding began to emerge. The Zephyrians, once believing that military dominance was the only path to security, started to appreciate the human approach of hidden strength behind civilian development. Lieutenant General Kalin, now heading the Joint Reconstruction Committee, met with Serena on the observation deck of the third Pax. "I underestimated your people," he admitted. "We all did." "It's a common mistake," Serena replied. "Peace is often mistaken for weakness." "The younger officers speak of you with respect now," Kalin said. "They study your tactics, your preparation." "I hope they also study our willingness to rebuild," Serena said, gesturing to the planet below, where joint teams worked to restore power to a Zephyrian city. Back on Earth, the Colonial Council debated the future of the Prometheus Plan. Some argued that the military components should be removed from civilian infrastructure now that the threat had passed. Others insisted that maintaining the hidden defenses was essential for future security. Dr. Arjun Patel, addressing the council, offered a middle path. "We can scale back without dismantling, maintain our ability to defend ourselves while focusing primarily on peaceful development." This approach gained support, and the Council voted to maintain the core defensive capabilities while returning to a primarily civilian focus. Throughout human colonies, life gradually returned to normal. The memory of the conflict remained, but it didn't dominate daily existence. Children played in parks built atop concealed defense systems. Miners extracted resources using equipment that could, if necessary, become weapons. Passenger ships carried tourists between worlds, their hidden armor plates and weapon ports sealed but maintained. 6 months after the peace agreement, Serena resigned her military commission. She accepted a position as diplomatic advisor, helping forge new relationships with previously hostile civilizations. "Your experience makes you invaluable," Director Duvall told her during the transition. "You understand both war and peace." "I understand that they're two sides of the same coin," Serena replied. "True peace requires strength, and true strength requires wisdom to know when not to use it." On the anniversary of the conflict, celebrations were held throughout human space, not celebrating victory, but commemorating resilience and the return to peace. In a surprising gesture, Zephyrian representatives were invited to participate, a symbol of the new relationship between the once warring civilizations. Supreme War Chief Malk, in one of his last official acts, before stepping down in favor of a more moderate leadership council, sent a message to humanity. "We misjudged you. We saw your peace as weakness. We now understand it was wisdom. The Zephyrian Empire acknowledges your right to exist among the stars." The message was met with cautious optimism throughout human colonies. Trust would take time to build, but the foundation had been laid. In the years that followed, the phrase, "You want war, then you've chosen death," became more than a battle cry. It evolved into a philosophical principle, a reminder that aggression bears consequences, that peace should never be mistaken for weakness, and that preparation is the best defense against conflict. Serena, watching a sunset from her home on Luna, reflected on how quickly everything had changed. From diplomat to war leader, and back to diplomat in less than a year. The stars above held both promise and potential threat, as they always had. A message arrived on her terminal, an invitation to serve as humanity's representative to the newly formed Galactic Concord, an alliance of civilizations dedicated to maintaining peace through mutual respect and understanding. She accepted without hesitation. The war was over, but the work of peace, the harder work, continued. As the Third Pax prepared for its next mission, now truly a vessel of peace, its phoenix emblem gleamed in the starlight, a symbol of humanity's ability to rise from the ashes of conflict, transformed but unbroken. The memory of those fateful words would echo across the stars for generations. "You want war? Then you've chosen death." Not a threat, but a promise that humanity would defend its right to exist while striving always to build rather than destroy, to connect rather than divide, to transform rather than annihilate. And in time, even the Zephyrians came to respect that promise. Their civilization, once built on conquest, began to explore new paths of cooperation, innovation, and peaceful exchange. The scars of conflict remained, but new growth covered them, creating something stronger and more resilient than what had come before. The universe, vast and mysterious, continued its eternal dance. And within it, humans and Zephyrians moved forward, sometimes together, sometimes apart, but always aware that beneath the civilian facade of peace lay the capacity for transformation when threatened, and beneath the military capacity for destruction lay the desire for harmony. This balance, this duality, became the foundation for a new era, one in which the phrase, "You want war, then you've chosen death," served not as a reminder of conflict, but as a deterrent against it. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.